that is about 1.5 millimeters out of square. The first job is to obviously throw all your tools on the ground and then pick them up and work with them. Oh no. Due to that, I'm no longer going to be able to make this as a knockdown bench. Hello and welcome to the shed. In today's video we're going to be building a knockdown, Japanese inspired, low Roman workbench slash sawhorse or saw bench. Hope you enjoy. So what I'm using here is some Jarrah that I already had lying around. I picked it up cheap from the big box store. I think it was a cancelled order or something, so I got it about half the price it normally was. So what do? You buy it. So these pieces of Jarrah that I have here that I'm using for the tabletop and also for the legs. I've got a couple more down on the ground here. These are 38mm thick, 1.5 meters long and 150mm wide. So when we bring them together, we're going to be roughly, after we've done a little bit of edge jointing, probably just under 300mm wide. Now, that might be too wide for you, so you might need to adjust that based on how you're actually going to use it. If you want to sit it and straddle it, you've got to watch that the width is not too wide. But for me, the 300 should be fine, and I think that would be fine for most people. Being out of Jarrah, and obviously you can change what timber you use, and that will change whether it's more portable or not. But the Jarrah here, the main reason I'm using it is that it was in the correct dimensions that I required, and it was available. I already had it. Now, I also like the fact that it is quite a heavy timber, so it's going to prevent this from wanting to move around much. And that's why I'm choosing it, and I'm hoping it's going to work out the way that I hope it does. Now, if it doesn't, well, I guess I'll just have to deal with it. What we're going to do is obviously edge joint these together. So we're going to jump down here and get started with that now. The first job is to obviously throw all your tools on the ground and then pick them up and work with them. What we're going to do is run the hand plane across here. We'll see where it picks it up. I know it's slightly high this side and it's not out by much, maybe 0.5 millimeter on this side. So we know this side closest to me is about 0.5 millimeter too high. So again, we engage all the way along here. It's not taking a shaving, and then we hit here. We start taking a shaving. It jumps, and then we go through. So there's still a couple of spots here that are not great. So let's go one more. So I'm going to drop this back into the clamps where I had it. And I can already see that's going to come together much better than it already was. So now we need to take this off. Now, by grabbing this second board, I have to reference off the opposite side to what I was with that first board. So I'm hoping you can see that. That is about 1.5 millimeters out of square. And that's right across the entire board. So that's what we're trying to correct right now. I'm going to have to work on this for a little bit, and you can see, yeah, I stuffed up, the blade moved in my jointer, and, you know, that does happen. Especially with these Norris type adjusters, they don't hold the blade very well, and you've got to really crank the cap down to hold it, especially in these Melbourne Tool Company ones, so I just didn't have quite enough because I was adjusting the depth right at the start there, and I should have done it up tighter. So I'm just going to use Type Bond 2, it's what I've got, Type Bond 3, Type Bond 1, it doesn't really matter. Anything that's slightly water resistant is probably not a bad option here because it could be outside. It's not that I would leave it out in the elements, but it might get a bit of moisture here and there, and so it's better that it does have a little bit of moisture resistance. I think this glue might be a little bit, it might be going off ever so slightly, or it's just the nozzle. The nozzle's a little bit stuck. Alright, so I'm just going to try and tap the glue out instead. So when it comes to gluing these up, it's most important to get the glue right out to the far edges. Now, I can also feel that this is starting to set up a little bit because I do have too much glue here. Tried not to put too much, but since that nozzle wasn't working, I've got, well, a bit of a mess here. So I do this, rock them together, line them up, and I always clamp from the inside first. So now I've finished making a mess with the glue, we're going to cut this up into its sections for its legs. So the first step here is to get a nice clean edge. So we need to saw off one edge and that'll be where all our measurements come off from. So I'm going to come off this edge here. And what I need to do here is just back cut against that knife line. Starting to pinch a little bit, so I'll just wax it up again and keep going. Oh no! So what I'm going to do is I'll probably just use PVA and we'll glue this back in and clamp it down, and I'll have to get back to it after that dries. Now, if I ever do a repair like this, which I've had to do a few times, too much glue is actually really good with this because you can't really see exactly where there's gaps and where there's not. So we just got to slather it in there, and you essentially have one chance to do it. Now, luckily, I stopped before this tore all the way off, and I was able to stop it actually ripping all the way off. And that's a good thing. If this had ripped all the way off, we still would have got it back in there. We still would have got it repaired, but it would have been much more annoying to repair. I'm likely going to leave this a full 24 hours to make sure that it's fully and completely dry because I don't want that splitting off again. And I've made that mistake before, trying to get back to it too soon. Put something like that on a shooting board and it rips the fibres out, or put a hand plane on it and it tears those fibres out and breaks it off. Then I'm in even more problems than I am just by waiting. So I'm going to have a little bit of patience here, and I'll probably get back to you in another 24 hours. So we can see here that although there's a little bit of unevenness in the boards where we glued them, this is glued down nice and tight, and you wouldn't even notice it on the end grain here that it popped out. So what we need to do is hand plane this edge here before we mark our 400, because I always like to have a nice clean edge. That's now square enough that we can do our markings and mark our leg off this now. So I'll come through, mark at 400, and then I'm just going to go a millimetre across, and then I'm going to come to 800 up this end, but I'm going to mark it that millimetre off. of a mess of that. Obviously I didn't do so well there. I don't tend to hand saw stuff this wide, and you can see the few issues that I ran into there. Now I could have used a panel saw for this, but this timber, trying to do a large or wider kerf with a panel saw is even more painful than trying to use a back saw to do it. And I kind of wanted the reference of square and straight with the back saw. But having said that, you could have used a panel saw. So let's go back to the shooting board. We'll clean these bits up, then we'll get our stretchers and get onto the joinery that we need to do there. And to be honest, there's not a whole lot more to this project. It's fairly quick, fairly easy to actually do when you don't stuff it up as many times as I have. Wash it out and put it back in. Now we need to line these up and make sure that these legs are the same length, and that is so we have it sit level. You can see there that's a good, probably 4 millimeters. If it goes too slowly, then I will switch. So I've got to do it this way to get the correct referencing. Now we've got our timber ready, our topper's over there waiting to be used, our legs are prepped and ready to go, and our stretchers here are ready to go. So now all that's left is to do the joinery, and then we can put the whole lot together. So we're going to space this in 200 mil. So I'm just going to put my first mark. So how do we get our 10 degrees? If you've got one of these, you can go 90 degrees, set it to your 90, and that allows you to bring it in here. Then you just offset it each way you want by 10 degrees. Hopefully you can see that. We just offset it either way 10 degrees. So this side we want it to go 10 degrees that way, the other side 10 degrees this way. And then you just transfer that angle onto one of your sliding bevells and use that for your layout. So since we're on this side and we want it to go this way, we can bring it there. Our depth here is 172 mil, no, 72 mil, something like that. Yeah, 72.5 mil, and we can see here we've got that center mark. Now, I've just put that in the wrong spot, I just realized, because our 200 mil mark is just here. So, just ignore that for a minute. So we'll mark this here. So the closest point is 200 mil in. This point's going to be further out. Now, to get the width of this, we obviously want the width of this leg. So the easiest way to do that is to lay it on a flat surface and then just take this and lock it down. So that gives us 35 mil. So to do that, I can just butt it up against there, go to 35, put a little mark, and now line this up. And so now we get our marking gauge to our depth through here, and just finish up the joinery layout. So now that we've got that here, we'll transfer it square across here and do the same markings on the other side. Just remember which angle you're working off, because you want these to be at the same angle. When you do that, you don't want to accidentally transcribe it, because then it's all going to be stuffed. So we established these marks across the top nice and deep, and that's so we can get our accuracy with our sawing. This one on this side slipped right off the line. So this sawing has gone from bad to worse. So we'll just have to see how well this works once we get it together. See, we've got a little unevenness just down in here. And you can see where it ran off the line here. It followed the wrong line and I noticed it a bit late, so it's a little bit of a mess here, so we'll just have to see if we need to put some sort of a filler block in there at some point. So I've just engaged in the bottom piece, the second piece. And now that we think we've got this side flat, we reference that back against the other side. Looks like it won't quite fit. Also won't quite fit. So since we're doing each one individually, now I'm going to hand plane each side of this one. That might be enough to bring it together. If it's not, we'll adjust the mortise. You can see that I've put this together now. These have come halfway down, so it's actually the legs that I need to remove a little bit more material off for them to actually slot right through. Because on both of these it looks like the stretchers have a wide enough half lap for that. I'm coming to that realization now that I'm probably going to have to glue this to keep it together. Now, it's not what I wanted, and obviously I designed this hoping that it'd be a knockdown design. That's what I wanted, but somehow I don't think it's going to work the way I want. So I've eventually got this together, and you can see that it's holding together really tight. Now, the reason for this is that both these cross stretchers I found out had a slight twist in them, and that's why I was struggling to get them to come together. And so due to that, I'm no longer going to be able to make this as a knockdown bench, which isn't the end of the world. I mean, the joinery is really tight. They're half laps. I mean, they're not supposed to be that tight, obviously. But obviously, my design has a few issues because these cross stretches, being only about 20mm wide, are probably prone to twisting, and so that was something I didn't foresee in my design. So sadly, this time around, this is not going to be a knockdown workbench slash saw bench, but it is still Japanese inspired rustic low bench. So the next step, and I always intended on doing this, is as they're seated, and I thought these were going to seat a little bit lower, but it doesn't matter. It's actually a little bit easier if they're sitting up a little bit higher, as I've got here. So we can see how there's a raised piece here. We need to hand plane that off, because when the top comes on, it's not going to sit flush if that's here. So what we've got to do here is knock this back apart. We've got to add some chamfers, clean up some stickers and some drawing marks and things like that on here. Like I said, I want to leave a lot of the tool marks on this, but I don't want any sharp corners to break off. I need to mark the tops of these so it can come back together right. Now we need to jump back over here and we need to mark our pocket hole locations and use a chisel. So check out the method here where you can use a gouge or a flat chisel. I'm just going to use the flat chisel for this. now that all those pocket holes are good to go and we're able to now attach the top, what we need to do now is go ahead and do the glue up. Since I've opted to change the design and not have it knocked down, I'm actually going to glue those legs into these cross stretches. Come up nice and solid, as you can see here. It doesn't rack, it doesn't move side to side. It's the perfect width to sit across your work like this, if that is something you're going to do, which with these style of benches, that's the whole idea. It is so solid. It is quite heavy because of what I've made it of, even though it did give me a few issues, as I've mentioned throughout this video. The final product always comes up good with Jarrah, even if you're not going to get the most fine furniture finish out of it, just because of the difficulties that you get with it. And to be honest, Jarrah, because of how hard it is and how finicky to work with, it's actually better worked with machines, I believe, than hand tools. But as you can see, if you persevere, deal with all the things it throws at you, you can sort of come to a solution, fix your issues, and as I had to do here, change my design because it's the first time I've built this. So you've got to be flexible in your own builds like this, especially where you're coming up with unique designs that you've not done tests of first. So if I had the ability and the space and the money and time to have done a prototype of this first, I would have solved a lot of the issues that came up in this video. But now you know the issues that I had working the Jarrah, and through a little bit of rushing and a little bit of stupidity as well, the issues that you might run into and how you can avoid those same issues that I've had here. So if you like this video, please do like and subscribe down below. While you're down there, do sound off in the comments. Do let me know about your mistakes and your projects as well. That's always fun to hear about people's mistakes. And as I've always said here, I like to show you all my mistakes where possible, and this video, this build is absolutely chock full of them. So I hope you enjoyed seeing me be a little bit of a spoon and make silly mistakes and make mistakes that I know I shouldn't, by choosing the wrong timber. But I know all of us at a time have had to do a project with a timber we don't like, or it doesn't work well with what we're doing, or it's what you've got on hand so you use it like I have here. So do sound off down below, and if you'd like to see another great build video, do check out the video here where the Traveler's Toolkit video will go once it's made. But until then, you'll see what YouTube recommends. Bye for now.